Okay, I put up a video, what was it? Last week. It was later in the week. It was after we got the gameplay previews from everybody else on the internet who got to play Tears of the Kingdom when they went to, Nintendo of Europe or New York, wherever they went to play the game. I put a video up after that talking about how it's pretty clear now that this isn't DLC. We can clearly see this is not DLC, and I kind of used that in the title a little bit. I kind of used a little bit of a play on the whole, is this DLC thing as a title, just to get some people to turn their heads and maybe check out the video. And they did, but it was not the people that I expected to watch the video. Honestly, I didn't even realize that these people still existed, but they do. There are people out there, believe it or not, who actually still think Tears of the Kingdom is DLC. And I gotta tell you right now, There's two camps you're in at this point. If you think this is DLC, you are either unaware of what DLC actually is, or you're just looking for something to complain about on the internet. Either way, today, I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna let you know some things about DLC and about this game and why they're a little bit different. I bet this video ends up getting even more people in the comments telling me it is DLC. Doesn't matter. Let's get into this. What's up, guys? Welcome back, or welcome in for the first time. Do me a favor, very quickly before we start this video, make sure you check the links down below. There are links down there to our podcast channel. We do a podcast over there at 8 p.m. Eastern every Thursday night. You can also listen to us on anywhere you can find a podcast. Links to the Discord are also down there, and you can now become a member of this channel. We have a private Discord room for that. There's lots of stuff going on there anyway. Even if you don't want to become a channel member, it does help the channel, but at least join the Discord. It's very easy. Links down below. All right, let's get into this. I want to talk about other DLCs. Before we get into Tears of the Kingdom and all, let's just go talk about other DLCs. Now, back in the day, and still today, but not quite as much now, we used to get really small DLCs. We'd get things in multiplayer games like skins, new weapons, new maps, things like that. In other games, you'd get, extra missions, different difficulty modes. But most of the time, in fact, all the time, DLC at that point was, and still today, is smaller than the actual game. It's smaller than the actual game. It's a fraction of the game. It's extra missions, a little bit extra story tacked onto the end. And that's fine. These DLC packs, $10, $20, $30. If you don't want it, you don't have to buy it. It doesn't affect the game that you've already bought. It just gives you more. If you like the game, it's a little extra. Nothing wrong with that. But lately, we've been seeing way bigger DLC packs. Well, a few of those things, the Octo expansion, which full game on itself. I wasn't big into Splatoon then. I'm really not big into Splatoon now, but I know that was massive. Another thing from Nintendo was the Happy Home Paradise DLC for Animal Crossing New Horizons. That is a game. It's a full extra game delivering as DLC. Now, does it use the same core mechanics? This is Animal Crossing New Horizon. Yes, that's why it's DLC. It's based off of the same exact game. You're using the same things. They've added on a little bit, but the core of the game is the same. Now, I know you're already down in the comments typing. Just hang on before you go there. Yes, I understand that Tears of the Kingdom is based off of Breath of the Wild. I'm very aware of that situation. I understand that they run on the same engine. And the thing we love about that engine is the physics engine, right? That's kind of the thing, the open world, obviously, but the physics engine, the way that you can interact with everything in the world, that's Breath of the Wild's thing. The open world, the physics engine, right? You with me? So we'll come back to that. Give me a second to finish up this other DLC talk. Now, we got other things like Monster Hunter Rise, Sunbreak. That was a huge DLC. It's pretty expensive DLC, but again, this is taking the game, Monster Hunter Rise, and adding on to it. It has a lot of extra content, a ton, but it's still the same game. Maybe some new weapons, maybe some new armor, maybe some new skins, whatever, but it's still the same exact gameplay. The fundamentals of the game have not changed. The core is still there. The fundamentals are still there. You're still playing the same game. You are playing more of it. Now that would be DLC. That is downloadable content for a game that already exists. Now, I saw in the comment section of the last video also that people were saying that, well, you know, it is DLC. It's totally DLC. You know, Nintendo has said that it was DLC for Breath of the Wild. And you're right, they did say that, but you stopped halfway through what they actually said, because if you go look at the rest of what they said they had way too many ideas to just make this into DLC, and they didn't want to make it into DLC and have to sacrifice things that they could not do in Breath of the Wild just to make it DLC, so they decided to make a new game. So, you know, if you're gonna make that argument in my comment section, at least finish the argument, because only half of it works. Only half of it works for you. Now let's get back to the game. Let's get back to Tears of the Kingdom and why this is not DLC. Now, we talked earlier about how the fundamentals of the games, we were talking about the DLCs were the same. Now this is a different story. Now, while we do have the physics engine and we've got the map, and we're gonna get into that too. I mean, if we're gonna talk about engines that are reused and maps that are reused, then I don't know. Majora's Mask is just DLC for Ocarina of Time. Mario Galaxy 2 is just DLC for Mario Galaxy 1. A Link Between Worlds, that's just DLC for A Link to the Past, obviously, right? And no, obviously you and I both know that's not right, because what you do in those games is very different, just like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. Now, I want you to remember something very important about Breath of the Wild. In Breath of the Wild, the main way that you played the game was through stasis, magnesis, the bombs, the runes. You did it through the Sheikah Slate and everything that you had through that. Now, we don't have those things anymore. And while you can argue, oh, they just replaced those with other ones, yeah, they did. But these ones do different things. You are taking the core of the game, the way that you played the game, throwing that out, putting a new way to play the game in. You have changed the game at that point fundamentally. You have changed what the game is and how you play the game. And with those new mechanics come, you know, all the building we're gonna be able to do. The fusing of weapons, all this other stuff, all these little things that we couldn't do in Breath of the Wild and wouldn't have been able to do with DLC. This is the stuff they were talking about. You can't fundamentally change the code of the game and then call that DLC. When you're adding things like this into version 1 of the game and then you make a sequel, this is what you do with a sequel. And I heard somebody say the other day, and I brought this up to Jeeb, and it is funny because we talked about this on the podcast. Like I said, link to that's down below. Our last episode was about this too. You can check that out. But I asked him, I heard this somewhere on YouTube when I was looking up all this stuff, but what if they would have just done the Sky Islands? What if that was the whole game? So we're talking about probably way less content, but we take that bottom map out of there. Do you think people would have been happier? Would they have not called it DLC at that point? I think maybe they wouldn't have. I think people are really hung up on the fact that we're reusing maps. There are lots of game series out there that reuse maps. It happens all the time. And I mean, you have to think about this as well. Do you think that all the Koroks, even though they are there, you think we're just gonna have Koroks the same exact way in the same exact spots? Like, oh yeah, I remember that. Let's go back and move that rock because there's a Korok there. That's not gonna happen. Clearly, we don't have shrines anymore. They're gone, they're not there. We're going to be doing other things. They have taken the base of the map, made it into something new, changed the core mechanics of what we're gonna be doing in the game, and they've given us a proper sequel. Now, I'll admit, early on in the marketing of this game, I will also say, is there gonna be enough here? Is there gonna be enough to make me say this is a proper sequel to Breath of the Wild? And I don't see at this point how anybody who's not just trying to troll on the internet or just maybe doesn't understand what DLC is, as I said, can say that and actually mean it at this point. I mean, if we're looking at it that way, like I said in the last video, Jedi Survivors DLC, Mario Odyssey 2 DLC, Majora's Mask DLC. I mean, this falls right in line with all that stuff. I'm sure I haven't changed anyone's mind, but I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on all this down in the comments below. That is gonna do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave a like or a dislike, whatever you wanna do. Make sure you're subscribed, and we'll see you in the next one.